It would be refreshing to hear the Pentagon explain exactly why the country should invest so heavily in next-generation fighters. The Next Generation Air Dominance (NGAD) fighter jet will improve the odds of winning future conflicts, according to the Air Force's chief wargamer, Major Gen. Joseph D. Kunkel. The fight looks very different with NGAD than it does without NGAD, Kunkel said, speaking at a seminar at the Hudson Institute. I won't go into the details of how the fight looks different, but the fight looks much better with NGAD in place, Kunkel explained. NGAD remains a critical part of our force design, and it fundamentally changes the character of the fight in a way that is very, very good for the joint force. I mean, it's a joint force capability. Kunkel noted that NGAD will allow the U.S. to achieve air superiority, in these very, very difficult places, to achieve it, with lower operational risk, and the ability to provide dominant capability. He also warned that, if we choose not, as a nation, to pursue NGAD, then the fight will look a little different, and we may not be able to pursue or achieve all of our policy objectives. Of course, for the NGAD program to work, it will require peripheral investments, including survivable tankers and survivable bases where you can generate combat power, so NGAD itself is not an isolated investment. The obscure reasons for NGAD. War planners seem to have a tendency to suggest that more advanced weapons, and greater investments associated with them, are necessary to secure victory on the battlefield. Pursuing such advanced weapons, in competition with an adversary, is the very nature of an arms race. Investments in such weapons seem to be at the heart of American grand strategy. And perhaps such thinking is purely rational. But, nevertheless, it seems to be embedded in the minds of American defense planners. So it is no surprise that Kunkel advocates investing heavily in the next great air superiority fighter. His language and thinking, each consistent with the historical record, indeed echoes the language and thinking of his predecessors. To win the next war, we're going to need the next plane. This line of thinking may be correct, but it's worth noting that the cycle of thinking has largely been allowed to continue without being challenged. In Kunkel's case, the NGAD case, Kunkel's reasoning assumes that the NGAD will be built and will perform as advertised in the field. That's a tall order, given the complexity of fielding a generation of fighters that has yet to be developed, an endeavor that has previously proven fraught with cost overruns, schedule delays, and technological hurdles. The NGAD will be built. Then, a decade or two later, the first 7th-generation fighter will be built. That's how nation-states operate. Still, it would be refreshing to hear Kunkel explain precisely why the nation should invest so heavily in the NGAD. A vague allusion to national security concerns gives Kunkel a free hand to show his work, and perhaps it should. But the basic statement, "We need the NGAD," is hard to swallow without a good reason. Engines get hot cleaned. The two aerospace companies announced that their engine designs pass the Air Force's requirements for the Next Generation Adaptive Propulsion (NGAP) program, which seeks to produce an engine for the NGAD stealth fighter jet. Now, the two companies will compete in the final phase of the NGAP program. Whichever wins will get to install its engine in the most advanced fighter jet ever to take to the skies. GE Aerospace entered the XA-102 adaptive cycle engine into the competition, while Pratt & Whitney entered the XA-103. The XA-102 is the first engine in GE Aerospace history to be developed using Model-Based Systems Engineering (MBSE), representing a transformative change in how advanced propulsion systems are designed and tested, GE Aerospace said in a press release. The design review was presented to the U.S. Air Force, showcasing a comprehensive digital model of the engine and validating its readiness for the next phase of development. Now, the two companies will compete in the final phase of the NGAP program. Whoever wins could put its engine in the most advanced fighter jet ever to take to the skies. GE Aerospace has made great strides with model-based engineering, which has been instrumental in the successful design of the XA-102 engine, drive. Steve Doogie Russell, Vice President and General Manager of Edison Works at GE Aerospace, added. As we move into the procurement and development phase, We will continue to incorporate this innovative approach while working closely with our supply chain partners to advance the engine toward full-scale demonstration. Before the Air Force can select an engine and award a contract, however, the NGAD program will need to get the green light from the Air Force and Congress. And that's not certain. NGAD may be in trouble. NGAD is intended to replace the aging F-22 Raptor stealth fighter as the Air Force's new air superiority aircraft. However, the Air Force has put the program on hold as it assesses the exact capabilities it wants to bring to the new aircraft. NGAD explores a range of manned and unmanned aircraft capabilities. Additionally, the related Collaborative Combat Aircraft (CCA) program seeks to create a swarm of drones that can operate alongside NGAD. Some of these capabilities overlap, and the Air Force is trying to figure out what it needs for the future fight. To complicate matters further, NGAD is projected to be very expensive. While no price tag has been set yet, because there is no contract, Air Force leaders have expressed concerns about estimates that the sixth-generation stealth fighter could cost as much as $300 million per aircraft. The U.S. Department of Defense (DoD) announced that it has awarded 2 contract modifications, reportedly worth more than $3.5 billion each, for prototype 6th-generation aircraft engines. General Electric's (GE), Pratt & Whitney (P&W) division and RTX were named by the Pentagon in a contract announcement Monday. The Air Force Life Cycle Management Center, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Ohio, is designated as the contracting activity, and the work is expected to be completed by July 11, 2032, and July 13, 2032. Both efforts will be part of the Next Generation Adaptive Propulsion Program. The Pentagon further stated that P&W is focused on delivering advanced propulsion systems with flexible architectures that can be tailored for future warfighters operating across a range of missions, and digitally transforming the propulsion industrial base. According to a report from airforce-technology.com, GE is developing the variable cycle XA102 engine prototype while P&W is designing the XA103 engine prototype. P&W may have a slight advantage because its P135 engine powers the Lockheed Martin F-35 Lightning II, and that engine is part of the Block 4 upgrade for the 5th-generation multirole fighter. What this means for NGAD. The fact that DoD is raising the top line for the engine suggests that the program may not be on hold, as previously reported. Air Force officials have acknowledged that NGAD's high cost is a significant problem and have been working to rein it in. As previously reported, officials have warned that each manned NGAD fighter could cost up to 3 times as much as an F-35 Lightning II, bringing the total cost to about $300 million per aircraft. That has raised concerns that officials will have to reduce the number of aircraft in the fleet, which also means that losing even one in a crash, as happened Tuesday with an F-35 in Alaska, would be devastating. Critics have warned that a loss in combat would impact the U.S. Air Force's ability to fight effectively in the future. Another concern is that the aircraft being developed today may not be the aircraft needed in the future. The F-22 Raptor grew out of the Air Force's Advanced Tactical Fighter (ATF) program, which began in 1981. As a result, many of the pilots flying Raptors today weren't even born when the fighter was being designed. F-22 order cutbacks. What does it mean for NGAD? The high cost of the F-22 and the changing geopolitical landscape since the end of the Cold War have reduced the number of aircraft the Air Force is receiving. That has further increased the cost per aircraft. The Pentagon originally planned to buy 755th-generation air superiority fighters for the Air Force, but that plan was cut to 381 and then cut again to just 195, including 8 test prototypes and 187 production fighters. That could bode ill for NGAD. In fact, Air Force officials have suggested that we could see fewer manned fighters, to be supplemented by drones, especially those developed as part of the Collaborative Combat Aircraft (CCA) program. The CCA calls for the development of unmanned aerial systems (UAS) that would function alongside manned or optionally manned aircraft. As advanced loyal wingmen, they would be able to support and protect human pilots, provide reconnaissance, act as decoys, and most importantly sacrifice themselves to complete the mission. Based on continued support for the CCA, and the announcement of this new contract for 6th-generation engines, it appears that NGAD could end up with a much smaller number of manned fighters, supported by thousands of low-cost drones.